Alright, I did a few things off screen, one of which was setting up this huge enum. So we have for each thing in the tile set, we have an index into the tile set, basically. Perhaps it's a bit overkill to make an enum. We can just have an index, but anyway, now we have it. And what I want to do now is to make a level editor, because setting up levels in this way is a bit ignore that. It's a bit annoying and tedious. So we should make a level editor. And the first thing I think is to take this code and we'll make a function here that we call game loop. Something like that. And then we will simply call game loop here. It's not gonna work because it will need a bunch of variables. So to that end, I think we should make a new struct. And it's gonna be game state. It will have the frame count, we'll need that. It will have a player. And then it should probably also have the level data. And let's say that that's it. And it can be a global variable like that, but then we should initialize it here. So there's that, there is frame count is 0, and then we go here and we pass it into this function. This function will then take game state and we'll say player equals state.player, level is the level, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we need to indent this one more, I guess. And let's try to run it. So we also have this scale, which I guess we can put in here as well. So there we go. And unknown type name, because we have to put this at the top. Let's actually put it, yeah, why not put it here. And that did not work. Okay, let me fix the compilation errors. All right, so I realized we didn't actually have a player struct. That was just something I hallucinated. So I've created that, and we'll pack the entity and the sprite into that for now. And we added also the scale, I guess, and the window rectangle to the game state struct. But anyway, so now we have this. We should add another thing, which is, we might pause it later, but for now, let's say editor enabled. And here, if game state editor enabled, we'll do one thing, which is what we'll work on today, and then we'll do this otherwise. And it should be false by default. And in here, when we're running the game, probably this should only be like in debug mode, not in the released game, of course. But if we press the, let's say the E key, why not? If we press the E key, then game state .editor enable will be set to true. And then that should make sure we run the editor in the next frame. So let's try to run that. It's just called state in here for some peculiar reason, but whatever. So now we can not do anything, which is weird. What happened? I have handle inputs here, which is referencing it's referencing this copy. So what if we do this? Okay, so let me just fix that. Okay, here we go. So I just changed the entity here to be a pointer because we actually want to modify the entity that is kind of like behind the player. So now we can run it, we can still control it, we can attack, and that's about it. But if we are here and we press E, nothing happens. And why is that? So state, it's because we need to, of course, pass this by pointer as well, because we are going to modify it. So now we have to, luckily we did it all up here, so we have to say, change the dots into arrows, and state.editor enabled, so there we go. And we press E, and it's just nothing is happening now because it went into this, and we cannot even quit it apparently. And why did that happen? That was a bit weird. And we can also add this thing here, I think. Yeah, that was a bit weird. So nothing is happening now. If I press escape, it also doesn't react, and it doesn't react to me pressing this, which is super weird. I guess it's because, okay, I think I know why. It's because to react to input events, we actually need this this call, which I mistakenly put in here, which it shouldn't be. Basically, like everything in Raylib should be wrapped in this begin drawing, end drawing. So now it should work, I think. Yes, now it indeed works. And that's it. So let's do this. Let's make a new file that we'll call editor.c, and it will have this editor function, which for now will take no arguments, and then we need to include it. Right. So what are we going to do? Let's clear the background. Let me remind myself how you do that. You just call clear background. And we'll make it black. That's fine. So we go here, and now we're in the editor. And we should also add this thing so we can go back. That's a nice thing to have. And we'll say it's false. But now we already see we need the game state. So we'll pass it here. And save all. Why did it suddenly... it's because, again, the game state is like declared down here. Can I do this? And then maybe we don't need this. We don't need the type div, sorry. Okay, so that doesn't work, and we basically need to declare this guy. Okay, so we actually have a bit of a problem, which is that this game state struct has to be declared after entity and sprite, and editor has to be declared after the game state. So now we are beginning to go into the territory where we should actually structure this as a real project, not just random inclusion of C files. Okay, but now that is working, we can go back and forth. Now, to the interesting part. I want to draw a side panel. So let's, first of all, let's get the available window. And then I want to get a side panel. And yeah, let's call it main panel. And then let's define some helper functions that will split a rectangle at 20%. I don't know what this true should be, but let's see what Copilot is thinking. And it's not using this true for this parameter for anything. Maybe we can do something like this. Vertical. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. And this one will be at. This will be a pointer to a rectangle. And these guys we can call panel 1. Oops. And panel 2. And this one is the, let's call it the source. All right, so let me do this. And so panel, side panel is panel 1. That will have not 20%, but yeah. And then we have to say if vertical, we do one thing. So this is like vertical split. Let's call it vertical split, so we don't confuse it with vertical alignment. And here do this. And this should be source X and source Y. And if vertical split, we should have panel 2 is this stuff, and then we actually also need panel X, panel 2.x is this thing, and similar here, and that should do it. All right, so now let's call this function draw rectangle. Draw rectangle rect, I think it's called. Draw rectangle rect. And let's draw the side panel, and we can draw that in kind of like a dark red, just to test. And let's also draw the main panel, and sorry, this is red, and that will be blue. And let's see if it works. It did not work, and one thing we made a mistake of is to do this. Okay, so yes, no, yes, no, yes. So that's good. And also we have this parameter called window, which should of course be source. And same thing here. Okay, so here we go. And we split it up. You can see we have a side panel and we have the main panel. Inside the side panel, we want to draw tile selector, and it should be in the side panel. And I suppose let's bring the scale factor in. Why not? Draw tile selector. Right. So here is where we will need this tiles thing. So let's get rid of this for now. So how wide do we want it to be? And actually let's get rid of this. So how wide do we want it to be? We want number of columns to be so in this one, what just happened? In the tile set, come on. Finally. Okay, in the tile set we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10. We could just draw it as it is, but then we would need more space for it. But you know what, let's do that. So let's say number of columns is 10, and that means the tile size is going to be panel width divided by number of columns, and this should be a floating point number. But this one, just do this to be sure nothing weird is happening. All right, and then we should say for I less than tile count, which comes from this guy, this enum over here. We are going to do this. The row is this thing, which looks correct, and the column is that thing, which also looks correct. The tile is this thing, which looks correct. And right now we're just drawing some rectangles. So we don't need the scale we decided, so take one out. And now you can see this is how the tiles would look. Okay. So now we need to load the tile set, and I think we have done that somewhere. already. It's probably in graphics. Yeah, so we actually have this global thing, graphics data. To do, yeah. But anyway, so it's loading the tile set, so we can just use that in a similar way to what it's done here. Raw Texture Pro. Okay. So we need this guy, and let's go back to the editor. And there we go. I kind of still like this sorry, okay, so what is the source? The source is not this, it's tile size times row, tile size times column, tile size, and the destination is just tile. And let's try that out. We go into the editor, and now we can see things are quite jumbled up. But at least everything is there. Now, in the interest of seeing what the hell is going on, let's change this to 5. Great. So it looks like there's some kind of mix-up between rows and columns. Right, that's exactly what's happening. This should be column, and this should be row. And there we go. Now we have the tile set. Okay. Now what are we gonna do? Well, what we should have is, if we click one, then that is the selected tile, and then when we click over here, then that will be placed down. Right, so that means we need something like get mouse or mouse pressed is pressed, mouse position, is mouse. So okay, so what we're gonna do is let's draw it first and then check if the left mouse button is pressed and we collide with the tile, then for now we just print something, which is fine. That's right. Go into the editor and we click some tile. Great. Okay, but what we need to do now is to store that information somewhere. That means we need something like an editor struct, and yeah, let's go into main and we will declare it here. And it's gonna have a selected tile and ideally also tile placements, and it's going to be some unknown number, and then it's going to be 2. So really maybe we should do it like this. And then here, where we init the game state, we should say game state dot editor equals selected tile is nothing, and maybe we should make it a fixed amount. Tile capacity. Let's call it tile. I don't want to keep it like this forever. This is just to get something quickly up and running. And then can we do this zero initialize it? And then inside the editor, we need to pass, there it is, state editor, and then I guess we need to pass the pointer to that. And something went wrong. Warning, error. Has no member nav editor because we didn't add it, so here we go. And we also need to cast this to an editor. Because C. Great. So once we have that, we can say editor select tile is this, and I think that's basically it. Maybe in the lower half actually in here where we initialize it, let's make this -1. Well, no, let's not do that. So let's also draw selected tile. Sure, whatever. So let's just draw texture pro, and we're gonna draw from this, and what is happening here? Guess that's fine. But let's not draw it here. Let's draw it. We can draw it at the beginning of the panel. That's fine. And then we will draw it at tile size times, and how many rows do we have? We have this many rows. So n rows, and then we will actually draw it a bit bigger. Let's see if we can get that to work. So this is the one, and you can see we're drawing it. So yeah, we should probably add one, not to that, but to number of rows, and that's a bit better. Let's also put it in the middle, and then to center it we should subtract tile size, and there it is. So even like a little bit further down. Okay, so this is the selected tile, And now when we click over here, we want to place it. So let's start that. So what do we want to do? We want to draw the draw edited level or room, whatever. And it's going to be in the main panel, and it's going to take the editor as an input. I suppose we can keep the background here. And void draw edited room. It's going to take a panel, and it's going to take the editor. Now the editor will need some extra state, I guess, for this. Well, maybe not. So let's just say for the capacity of the editor, yes, indeed. So actually Copilot is kind of right that we will need 3 integers here. One to identify which tile is placed, and two for the coordinates. But that also means we need to indicate some way that there's no tile chosen. So let's say, yes, exactly. It's like it can hear me. So if, and it even did it over here as well. Okay, that's spooky. Right. This is not super great to have this constant, but I will leave it for now. The room destination is, yes. I suppose we also need the scale at this point. So state scale. And the scale should be added to here, here, and here. Now let's see if we can make that work. So we have, right, because we don't, of course we don't, we are just drawing things now. We should also say, if we are clicking and we are colliding with the panel, then we get the relative position, and we scale it down to an integer, and then placement index, tile placement index. Yeah, we'll need something like that, actually. Number of tiles, and here we will just say number of tiles, and similar here. Okay, now let's put down some floors. My God. Now we can make some nice levels very easily. Of course, we still need to persist these levels. And one thing that's a bit annoying is that it's not very easy to get some variation. You can see the floor looks very similar now, but really we want kind of to have random tiles placed. When I click over here, I really don't want this. I don't necessarily want this specific one. I just want a random floor tile. And what happens if we do this? That's amazing. Yeah, actually, these guys should probably be treated a bit different, because they are kind of like overlay tiles. And that means when we place it, it shouldn't overwrite the existing tile, because what's gonna happen is when we save it, there's no information about the floor. The floor is only there right now because we didn't like overwrite it, I suppose. So it's actually gonna look like this. You know, it's just gonna have no background. Right, so these are special tiles. It's a bit annoying as well. Actually, why does it happen? No, I'm actually wrong. Every time we place a tile, it doesn't overwrite, it doesn't check if something is already there. So all the tiles you place are actually there. Right. Okay. I think one thing we'll want to do is to add some zoom. So let's just do that. And it's going to be do we have a key plus? Don't want to use the keypad. But can we just search for plus? Well, let's try it then. So add. That should increase the scale a little bit. Now we need to draw something to actually see that. No, nothing is happening. I have to press the keypad, which I really don't like. Okay, you know what, that's gonna be fine for now. And this one is called subtract, and it's gonna be the opposite. So that's pretty nice that we can like draw something and then we can zoom out. Draw some more. Okay. That's pretty good. So I think we'll leave it there for now. In the next video, we will look at actually persisting this this information. So yeah, until next time. Bye bye.